Purdue Pharmaceuticals is best known for the creation of OxyContin. In the streets, these are known as the perks. Purdue's initial marketing campaigns claimed that less than 1% of patients would become addicted to OxyContin. This based on dubious and cherry-picked studies. Doctors were then heavily targeted with misleading information regarding the addiction risks and were heavily incentivized to overprescribe this drug. Not many talk about it, but do your research. This company, owned by the Sackler family, almost single-handedly caused the opioid crisis, all for profit. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service wanted to conduct a study regarding the long-term effects of untreated syphilis. At the time, syphilis was a widespread disease, and the Health Service recruited 600 African-American men to conduct experiments on. 399 of them had syphilis, while the other 201 participants did not, and served as the control. The Health Service never informed any participant of their actual diagnosis, and despite penicillin being discovered in the 1940s, researchers chose not to ever treat any of the infected men. Instead, they continued their study, allowing the disease to progress untreated for years. The participants suffered from severe complications, including blindness, organ failure, mental deterioration, and death. Some unknowingly transmitted syphilis to their wives and their children, further spreading the suffering. Lockheed Martin sells weapons to authoritarian regimes in the Middle East. The Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme is often regarded as the greatest financial con of the modern era. It was goated, and he was a pioneer. Here is how it worked. Step 1. Madoff promised investors consistent, high returns on their investments, typically around 10 to 15% annually, regardless of market conditions. This seemed too good to be true, but many trusted Madoff because of his reputation and status in the financial community. Step 2. Recruitment of new investors. Instead of actually investing the funds, Madoff used the money from new investors to pay returns to the older ones. This is the essence of a Ponzi scheme, or what they called it at the time, fucking awesome. Returns were not generated from profits, but from the influx of new investments. Step 3. Madoff created false financial statements and reports to make it appear as though his firm was generating legitimate profits through stock market investments. These documents showed fabricated account balances and trades, which lulled investors into a false sense of security. Step 4. Repeat. But did you know the SEC was alerted multiple times about Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme and took zero action? Several whistleblowers contacted the SEC with serious suspicions about Madoff's operations, some as early as 2001, including former employees of Madoff's own firm. Stephen Harbeck, the head of the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA, which worked closely with the SEC, was a former Madoff associate. Many former SEC officials who had been made aware of Madoff's actions would eventually leave their positions to work for firms or hedge funds with direct connections to Madoff. Bernie Madoff had long-standing and influential connections within the SEC. His own son was married to an SEC official. In 2006, George Bush was quoted saying, "The United States does not torture. It's against our laws, and it's against our values. I have not authorized it, and I will not authorize it." Despite this, in 2003, photographs surfaced showing U.S. military personnel abusing detainees at Abu Ghraib prison. This abuse included physical violence, sexual humiliation, and use of dogs to intimidate prisoners into cooperating. In 2010, Bush wrote in his own memoir that he, quote, personally approved the use of waterboarding on high-value detainees. Mark Andrews has ruined my life.